The Ascended Masters refer to Stephen North as a systems expert, the engineer, the inspiration consultant, the activator, the code, the alchemist, the crystal harmonizer, the musician, the therapist. He's the founder of Heart Activation Music. He's also the owner of Starpoint 9, the channel of Amy North, the Ascended Masters, and more. Stephen will be here today to discuss and explain how the Heart Activation Music is the first complementary therapy in the world that utilizes the consciousness of crystals, spirit guides, ascended masters, light frequencies, binaural frequencies, and natural scalar energies, all in one. The heart activation encompasses the purity of unconditional love and helps you come towards the light of consciousness. Once the unconditional love is felt in the heart and the walls are lowered, life can change. Oh, by the way, I'm Rocken Larry Locken. Good morning, good evening to wherever you may be in the cosmos in this never beginning or ending now moment. This is Pleiadian Express Productions, and I'm very honored today to have Stephen North here. He's from Australia, but he's currently here in the United States in New Jersey right now. And Stephen, how are you doing, and how are you enjoying your trip here in the United States?
I'm doing very well. The trip in the US has been very interesting. Started off in Colorado Springs with Jenny Schultz, who's just entire family is absolutely incredible. Did things that I would never do, and currently in New Jersey, moving to Pittsburgh next weekend, then down to Sarasota, off to San Francisco, then down to Sedona, Flagstaff, and Grand Canyon.
Wow, that's a mouthful. That's a lot of places to see in the United States. I've never even been back to the East Coast myself. By the way, everybody, I'm out here on the Pacific Ocean, about as far as you can get west here in Oregon. In fact, I can see the Pacific Ocean now through the trees, but yeah, I've never been back east. I've had chances and stuff, but I've just never been back east. So I hope you're enjoying the USA. I mean, and all that it has to offer, what it does have to offer right now. But I wanted to get into the reason that I came into contact with you was from in a great interview. Jenny Schultz, kudos to her. That was a great interview. It was like a night off interviewing her. She was just wonderful. And I'd like to give her a shout out for introducing me to you. And yeah, get into it a little bit. Talk a little bit about this heart activation music to start with. Or I mean, let's back up a little bit. Let's how did all of this come to be for you?
It's pretty much been a life story in how it came about. But around 2014, when I began a journey looking for something, going from psychic to psychic to psychic, looking for something completely unknown, one person said something specific, and it grew my attention. And that was when the whole working with a healer process began. That psychic was also a trance channel who channeled as her spirit guide, which is Cassandra, who's the representative of the divine feminine. And in this 2-hour session, which was 2 hours of information overload, she turned around and goes, "You're going to figure out how to transfer crystal energy into music." So I spent, because I've worked at the museum before, I was talking with a few scientists going, how do I do this? Because I've studied electronic engineering, never finished it, but because I studied a few units and understood working with oscilloscopes, which is the measurement of energy, I started trying to brainstorm how we would go about transferring these frequencies into crystals. A year later, which is around 2015, I got introduced to my own spirit guide, which is Amy, and she explained that we were alive in San Francisco in 69 to 71, and between the two of us, we worked together, and I managed to, and with her guidance, I managed to discover how to transfer after a year of trying to figure it out. Walked into the door one day, looked at a crystal and said, "You've got to be kidding me, it's not that simple." Walked in with full skepticism and managed to actually discover how to transfer the energy of a crystal into music. So now it is because we're working together as one that we're able to do it. if that makes sense.
No, it makes no, it does. To me, I'm kind of strange, so it makes perfect sense. But to me, it makes perfect sense. I think one question that was coming to mind is, do you curtail the therapy to maybe a certain, you were working with a certain person, would you curtail the music specifically for them, or is it just you understand what I'm saying? Is it curtailed to each individual at all?
Hang on. The best way to explain is when we first started creating it, we were creating it to pretty much treat what I was going through. So whether it was using depression, I used this a specific song and specific frequencies to go to treat depression as a light frequency, and rather than a chemical imbalance in the brain, and work through it that way. So at the time, it wasn't being catered for individual people and individual experiences. Until more recently, where one of the ideas that Amy said is you can channel someone's spirit guide and sit down with them and create a song specifically with their spirit guide, so that the incarnate can feel and create the bond through their spirit guide. So then it started getting a bit more personal. So that's when the Ascended Masters are stepping in and saying, I want you to write me a song. So going back to the therapy aspect, what I've been finding is that each practitioner that has been working with it finds their own way to work with what's available within the music. So to give an example, we've had a Reiki therapist back at home in Perth. She works with it in one session, but she'll only play 5 minutes of it because that's all that client needs. When we're working in the psychology practice, they play it 5 minutes before the client walks in the door. So it's kind of trusting the instincts of each of the person that's working with it to work with it in their own way. So because each person is unique in their own way as well. So.
No, that makes perfect sense. Yeah, no,
yeah,
I totally like what I'm hearing.
And the way that I work with it is completely different to the way you'll work with it. So you may have your own specialties, but what it does do is it creates the space to allow more of you to enter the room, so that way you have more control or more freedom to work with how you want to work, as well as having the spirit. Like if I put Serapis Bay into a specific song, his consciousness is there straight away in your room, and you don't need to clear the space because it's already there, and you can work with it however you work with it.
Okay, fascinating. That's fascinating. Okay, I see. So it was just kind of a general practice, and now recently it's getting more focused on individuals and whatever their own particular healing activation may need to be, for whether it's their spirit guides or of such.
Yeah. Like there's one experience that we've had where someone's friend had been diagnosed with pancreatic cancer, and the growth was 1.9 centimeters. So, and they came to me. She's going, "We've tried everything. We know you write this music. Is there something you can do?" And I thought about it, researched it, read the books, went to Marlene Swetlashoff, who is the scribe for Master Valerian, and she said, "Okay, I've channeled the consciousness of Bloodstone, and the crystal itself recommended these other 3 crystals." So I worked with those, put all those into a song, used Michael and Metatron together to come in as the cavalry, at a certain time. So the idea was to put the person into sleep and then allow this strong frequency to come through the body. Then I didn't hear anything back for a month or 2. I was hoping that documented, this is what they're taking, this is the medication they're on, but all I heard back was that the person had been given like 6 weeks or 6 months to live, but the oncologist couldn't explain how it shrank. And it shrank down to 1.5 centimeters, so they could do this specific type of surgery and could remove the cancer from the body.
Wow, I bet the doctors were blown away.
Yeah, and so the guy went and told his priest, and the priest said it was the work of the devil.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. I mean, anything that's out of any kind of normal realm is here in America, especially, is of the devil to that kind of ideology.
Oh, and once I got told that information, a few weeks later, a university researcher in Queensland, I think, had made the news because he discovered that certain sound frequencies could burst cancer cells, and then someone in the US a year later published a research paper saying the same thing.
So see, there you go. That's great.
Yeah. So so the whole heart activation music, really, the whole purpose of it is to, because life is filled with struggles, filled with stress, filled with chaos, filled with drama. Everyone goes through some sort of chaos throughout their lives. That our patterns, and mine as well, is that we close off our hearts and we can't, drink a cup of concrete, we harden up, and then we close off to those experiences. So what we've had to do in order to create a shift between this augmented reality that we call Earth into the new Earth, we have to heal the heart space. So what this heart activation music does is if there is an avenue within the heart, within the wound itself, within the heart, it allows it to go, the light goes in there and can start planting the seed so that the humans can walk towards a light of consciousness. And then that starts creating a shift in their life, and that shift within them starts creating ripple effects within others.
Exactly. It sounds like what it's doing, it's forcing them to kind of live out of their heart center a little bit more, what I call heart logic, using your heart brain, right? And going from there. And then that just rubs off on other people. What I'm wondering and curious is, we do try to desensitize ourselves. We try to numb ourselves so we don't have to deal with a lot of realities, whether it's down to having a cup of coffee like I had before the show or whatever. Or have you ran into people that have sought your help, or I'm sure if you haven't, you will, for substance abuse or anything like that, or issues of that nature?
Well, as I said, Amy and I work on ourselves first. So one of the things that we went through was alcoholism, if we want to call it that way. Because we're so not wanting to deal with these emotional upheavals, we kind of go to chocolate or coffee or alcohol or drugs or whatever we want to do to kind of numb the emotions. For me, I was drinking alcohol like it was water, until one day I got pulled over by the police officer, and they said, "Hey, get out of the car. You've drunk too much. You're coming with us for the night." So what I realized, and it was through Amy's teachings, that emotions itself are a light frequency, and if an emotion comes up, they're there to teach us something about ourselves. So what I was doing for myself was using the music to help work with the emotions like a scrubbing brush. So with the purity of the love that Amy brings through, it's kind of like emotional alchemy. So you get to sit there and work with it, and after a while, you'll be able to, it took me a few months to learn the practice of it, but was able to sit down, and when an emotion comes through, I can sit with it. And if it's like yesterday where I was feeling flat because of experiencing many years of hardship, I just sat with it all day long to work with the emotion, talk to the emotion, ask why it's present. And that's when the heart activation music comes in, because it allows us to shift it through much quicker than spending months or years working through the mud.
Would you consider this music at all of a telepathic sort of a nature?
Yes, and that's where the scalar energy comes in, because what we're doing is we're using light codes. So scalar is a non-electromagnetic system. Electromagnetic is the third, fourth dimensional structures. Once we move into a quantum state, we're able to be, all humans are telepathic no matter what. That's what the mobile phones are teaching us. We're getting ourselves used to the speed of telecommunications in order to get us used to the speed of what the fifth dimensional runs at. which gets us used to being able to communicate with anyone no matter where we are. So that's the purpose of the mobile phone. So what Amy does is she sends the coded vibrations while I'm creating the frequencies for her to code. So in a way, so it is subliminal messages, but it's more to like just build with love and come to the light. Yeah. So in a way, it's kind of telepathic.
Okay, that makes sense. That does make a lot of sense. Did it take you a while to build that trust? I mean, it's obviously been a long time relationship you've been building with Amy, and did it take a while for you to completely let go and trust?
No. Once I realized she was there, straight away I got someone to draw her, and I realized I'd been seeing her in my dreams. I realized that the communications with her has always been there. So as she introduced herself as the twin flame connection, and majority of light workers have their twin flames as spirit guides because of that whole bond, I threw myself at it. It's going, I'm not happy with where I am. Let's work together and just fill myself with love and her love, and just worked and worked and worked. So there are times when going through the struggle that doubt has come through, because it's kind of like you're trusting. It's kind of like everything's focused on faith and trusting a higher power. As I've seen in the US, it's trusting God. And no matter what obstacles come up, you've got to still hold on to that trust and hold on to that faith.
Yeah, especially on a Sunday morning or a Wednesday evening here. Yeah, exactly. You can't bend or break or go out of those parameters. And man, that really limits us, I mean, I've always known how much it limits us, but when I talk to people like you, it really makes me realize how much that kind of ideology and being banned by a belief or being bonded by a belief system, how it really can, it shuts off so many doors.
Yeah. I mean, that's why I started researching. One of the conversations with Jenny was about morphic fields. So I started researching the science into what exactly is a morphogenetic system, and it's kind of like it's our beliefs, and if we have this belief that negative stuff is going to happen to us, we're going to create it because that we're inviting it to come in. So I truly understand that. We have our doubts because we've got lives filled with it. We're being told that we're not good enough, and when we try and step into something that we believe we're good enough, it's going to come up. It's going to surface.
Yeah, it's kind of like a control mechanism in a way. I mean, I'm not going to get deep into that kind of conspiracy, but it really, and then you get stuck in that comfort system of just, okay, I'm only going to go in these parameters, so I don't have to. Boy, I better not go out of these parameters, or I'm going to go to hell, or what will people think about me? What kind of ridicule will I face? And I think that more and more people are getting away from that, inhibiting them. But there's a lot of people out there, and a lot of people that might even listen to this show that'll, that are just, they don't know who to talk to. They don't know who to tell. They're surrounded by, they may live in a not particular open-minded area of the world, or particularly somewhere in the USA. And so, those are the kind of people out there I really feel for. And what you're talking about, to me, it seems like could help a lot of people break out of that, and also, maybe not go down that road of depression and addiction.
Yeah. So one of the things that Amy has explained, and she's talking in my head, was so what the methodology that we've been using is that we experience it, we work through it, and then we create shortcuts so others don't have to go through that path.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so if we're dealing with struggle about breaking free from our own belief systems, because we're using each other's abilities, once we figure out how to break free, I'll then create a song, and I'll call it something like Breaking Free, and it'll be a sound. It will sound like prison chains breaking, but the energy structure behind it, and that's what's encoded in the crystals, is breaking free from that paradigm. So it's kind of like Amy and I experience it together. We get through it, and then we find the shortcut, so that you don't have to go through the years of struggle. You can just move straight through it really quickly.
Oh, okay. Wow. Amazing. Yeah. And the crystal part of this, like we had talked about in private, I believe crystals are actually ascended living beings. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Because I've got, one of the psychic artists that I work with, which is Janine Keel. She has been channeling the consciousness of crystals and actually telling you who they are. So I've got this big black quartz cluster whose name is Celeste, and she's comes from, I don't know, 1600s or something like that. So because of the cave that she was working in Brazil, when her energy was kept in this cave, it allowed her to use the crystal as a physical vessel, like we use the human body. So crystals have consciousness. They're like us. They have personalities.
Do you think then that this is just kind of a forgotten knowledge that we once possessed here on Earth, that we're reawakening to?
Well, yeah. One of my last session with an incredible channel, which is Rebecca Dawson, we were talking, and they go to me, do you not think that you've coded crystals in all your previous lives to help you remember who you are? And I sat there and I looked at them like, okay, I get it. Because what they were saying is that when these systems got introduced 3,000 odd years ago, or longer, or whatever, like human consciousness got changed, the plant life consciousness got changed, animal consciousness got changed, but the only thing that didn't get changed was the crystals. So to access the new Earth, which is already existing, was through the consciousness of crystals. And then they were explaining to me, which I had no knowledge of until they said it, is that through these crystals, I've been changing my physical body to anchor into the new Earth systems. So the crystals are, so the Earth is, or the crystals are the way to move forward, which is why we love crystals, because our cells remember the original connection.
Yeah, exactly. Who doesn't love crystals? I mean, the only people that might not love them actually still like them, but they're people that probably attach some kind of, again, religious evilness to them, or, don't get into, they immediately think you're going to start praying to the crystal or something.
But they probably have a diamond ring on their finger, or some crystal on some piece of jewelry that they're wearing, so they don't realize.
Yo, you can better believe that. Yeah, you can better believe they do.
So yeah, it's really interesting. So the consciousness of the crystals are helping us change our own body. So we're all part of the Earth. So if the Earth is changing, we're changing.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it could power about 8 150-foot crystal towers, or give or take, or could power the whole planet, maybe more, but that's just how I feel. And I feel like it was like that in Atlantis and Lemuria from my past dreams and channelings and stuff that I remembered from when I was a little boy, dreams having that, just a few years ago I remembered having. There's a reason sometimes that we forget some of this stuff for a while to experience a little bit of 3D life, and then it's just amazing. What you're doing to me is very unique. I have never really heard of it like that. I've never heard of the crystals playing such a role like that, and through spirit guides too. So it sounds kind of like, and you've got light frequencies and binaural frequencies, and it sounds like it's a combination, a great combination to have all together. And it sounds like it takes all that to really make this go.
Yeah, because originally I didn't want to have the binary frequencies in, because everyone was going to 432, 432, whatever. And I'm like, I don't want to go down that path. But Amy goes, no, because there are people that the binary frequency will dislodge previous wounds, and For others, the binary frequency may not do anything to them or help them. So some need it, some don't. So that's when I started playing around with different frequencies based on the other people's research, which is like 136.1 is one of the main ones that I use, which they say is the heart chakra. By bringing it all together, like the scalar energy, I know of other research where they're using 2 Tesla coils to create the energetic system. But what I'm doing is it's all natural, because it's the frequency of the soul that comes through. We merge with Amy's consciousness, and then those are the masters. So we really go into a single space where we're all together as one, and that's where we create from.
Yeah, nothing invasive. It sounds peaceful, yet it sounds well thought out. And yeah, I agree with the binaural frequencies. I don't know. The music is great, but binaural frequencies, they kind of annoy me. Is that typical, or not typical, but do other people feel that part of it can be annoying? The dot in the numbers and things like that.
I don't know. I have not come across that. I know people have asked me questions like, why am I not using 432 hertz? And it's like, well, there's a whole spectrum to use. So it's kind of like going, we have an entire rainbow of colors. I just want to use yellow.
Okay, that explains what I was really thinking. My question. Okay,
yeah.
So it really just depends on what level of frequency, whether it's 432 or what did you say the heart was, 136?
136.1. But if one of the questions that I'm looking at is, if the Earth is shifting its own frequencies, do these frequencies mean that it's no longer relevant because it's old technology, it's old research? Do we need to start looking at research into what the new human body is capable of? So that's one of the questions that I've been thinking of lately, is going, well, years and years, 100, 200 years ago, they would have said 136.1 hertz is what we needed. But today, because we're all shifting into, crystalline structures, and chakra systems are shifting, and certain ones are moving and merging, and new ones are coming online, does that mean we need to look at the body again with fresh start, like from blank, start again?
Okay, good point.
So yeah, so that's just one of the areas that I've looked at, because it's like 136.1 could be yesterday's heart, and tomorrow's could be 500 something. I don't know.
So it could speed up that quick as we transition into a 5D reality. It could really affect that. I mean, of course, I'm kind of asking a stupid question, but it could really speed it up that much.
Yeah. I mean, because in the third dimensional, fourth dimensional structure, it's a lower frequency, it's a low bandwidth, it's more, what's the word? We're very dependent on electromagnetic. Once we move away from that dependency and move into the quantum realm, we probably won't need these older energies, these older frequencies again.
It's kind of like being banned within, like on an AM or FM radio, you can only go up so far up and down the dial, versus like a new technology like the internet, you can go anywhere. Just a thought.
Yeah, so that's just something that I've been pondering and wondering of late. But I keep working with what we've got, because we're still shifting, crossing the bridge into the new world. So it's just one of the thoughts that I've had as part of the research going on. Anyway.
Well, what I appreciate about you is that you don't stay satisfied. You keep looking and understanding that things change, and keep looking for, ways to improve, maybe something a lot of people wouldn't think needed to be improved upon. But it sounds like you're always, listening and looking for, something new, because the only thing constant really is change.
Yeah. One of the things that the masters have said to me is that if, the information they gave today is relevant to today, but next month it's not relevant anymore.
No, or here in the USA the next day anymore.
So that's what I find interesting. It's like, even holding on to information from a year ago is not worth it. It's not relevant anymore. So it really forces us to live in the now.
Yeah, more and more it sure does. Do you find, okay, I think everybody would say yes to this, that it's halfway awoken, but of course, at times we find time speeding down, that they're speeding up, speeding up. Do you ever find times though where there's lulls where it does seem like it's dragging, even though for the most part we're kind of we're moving really at an accelerated pace. People don't realize, and you know, sometimes people think that it should just, then if they understand it, they think it should happen overnight, but it doesn't. It's, you know, it's.
Yeah, I can. Yeah. You know, we created the heart activation music back in 2015, and I'm like, Amy, why are our sessions so small? She goes, because humanity's not ready for it yet. You know, patience, and it's, you know, it gets very frustrating because it seems like it just drags on and on and on. And that was 2015, and we're in 2018, and it just feels like that was last week.
That's a good point. That's a good way to look at it. When you're looking at it kind of from, God, it was 2015 and it's dragging on and on. But now when you look back at it retrospective, it wasn't really, it was just like yesterday or last week. So, you know, I mean, it just, that's kind of exactly, you described exactly what I was trying to articulate of how I feel at times, right? With the impatience of it all. So I guess really what I think a lot of people get hung up on is that they're, you know, even though they've been told this, that spirit guides and things of that nature and ascended beings really don't work on a Earth timetable, you know.
Actually, that's one of the things that Amy just brought up, because where she sits in wherever she is, she's able to see in Earth time and outside of Earth time. So she keeps saying, you know, don't worry about money. Everything is going to be okay. You set the wheels in motion. What's going to happen is going to happen. Everything is going to be working out perfectly. But then when she jumps into Earth time, it feels like it takes forever.
Yeah, well, that's certainly understandable. And as humans, we want to know, and, you know, and she may be right. You know, things are going to be provided. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. But as I know, in our human nature, it's like, well, we want to see what's going to happen. Where's this going to go? And, you know, and sometimes it's hard. It is really hard to be patient. But of course, you probably mastered that though already, the patience thing.
It's a life lesson, so I'm still learning.
Yeah, me too, man.
It's like we specifically chose patience in this lifetime, and I'm just like, oh no.
Yeah, good universe. I know. Yeah, I wasn't born with a lot of them myself, and had to learn a lot of patience, especially as an only child who was spoiled and parents worked a lot, and so it when I'd have friends over and stuff, I'd really have to learn patience, and I think my awakening has taught me that too, to think about my thoughts. I really feel bad, like once in a great blue moon when I'm really pissed off or I'm just really angry. Then I get angry at myself for being angry later on, you know.
This is so bizarre, because yesterday when I was at the gym, the episode on Dr. Phil, I mean, I don't even know why Dr. Phil was on, was all about talking about how the blah blah. He was saying that the girl was angry, but what she couldn't articulate was that she was frustrated or sad or upset or hurt. And it's like, and having the emotions of anger come through, I think, and the confirmation came from that show, was that we need to dig in a little bit more to explore why are these emotions coming up even more. So yeah, we're not alone because, you know, I have issues with, I had anger come up in the past few weeks, and I'm like, whoa, I don't like this energy. I don't like how I feel. And it was like I was just vomiting energy as it was releasing from the body.
Yeah, you know, it used to be that when I was younger, I would feel bad about getting angry or something like that, but then I would just say that I did or thought that I did. But now I don't like that vibration at all, and I don't like myself projecting it, and I really beat myself up for it, man, you know. And it's just, I think it's one of them life lessons, just to take your lumps, and, you know, I'm trying to take my lumps with it and learn from it, you know, and learn to think about everything you say, how it's going to affect you a few seconds out, a few minutes out, and yada yada. So I just feel like I'm thinking, I'm seeing it from other people's perspective more, like, oh, okay, this is how I've made other people feel, like they've made me feel, but I'm feeling like, okay, like I'm feeling what I'm feeling like I probably made them feel like I'm thinking that I'm feeling what they did, but maybe it's just me beating myself up. It just depends. But Dr. Phil on at the gym, there was a reason why he was on, obviously.
Yeah, and if we were having a session and you were telling me that you were beating yourself up, because you're angry, I would say, well, we need to introduce forgiveness for yourself, because everyone gets angry. It's an emotion, it's an expression. There's something that we need to learn about ourselves, or some past life BS coming to the surface to release, which can be really big. So it's just like, well, we need to forgive ourselves and love ourselves, because it's just part of being human.
Yeah, I think that's my biggest problem, is working on forgiveness, because I get stuck in this middle point where I don't want to get all cocky and look like I'm looking at myself in the mirror and saying, hey, you're a great guy, you need to forgive yourself, and I think that if I let myself forgive myself, that it'll give me an ego, which I know it won't. It's just, I don't know, it's just kind of something I'm stuck in. Like, if I forgive myself, does that mean I'm getting off scot-free? I think sometimes too, as humans, have you found that people want to like punish their own selves, it seems like?
I've done it myself. It was a big pattern, and going through the whole because you're so used to having because I was so used to having abusive relationships, which includes friendships and everything else. When I got to one friendship, because there was no abuse, I introduced self-abuse, because we're always being told that we need to change. And having been diagnosed as a child with ADHD and feeling like I couldn't function without medication, and these really powerful belief systems, that even in my marriage, it was, I was taking like Dexies, Ritalin, lithium, Risperdal, Effexor, Valium, kind of a whole plethora of things, trying to be a better person, because someone was telling me that I would not amount to everything. But then all of a sudden, because because we worked for the same government agency at the time, because I was earning more than her, it introduced her jealousy. So it's like, it was a never win-win situation. So that whole abusive patterns and beliefs surfaced all the time. But you don't realize it's there, because you're not seeing it.
Yeah, and you can't win in those situations. It's like you said, you were damned if you did, damned if you didn't. And I'm telling you, people, I'm not going to label, but there are people like that. I've had 2 previous marriages that didn't work out. One was with my 3 children's mom, and that was just, we just fell out of love with each other. But my second marriage, I couldn't do anything right. If I went right, I should have went left, and it was always everything was in an accusatory tone, to the point where I got so paranoid about things that I would lie about shit I didn't even need to lie about. You know what I mean? Like, oh, well, I took this way home instead of that way home, or I went to this store instead of this store. Because then I'm wondering, well, why am I going to get asked why I went to this particular store when there's no real reason? But you get in a relationship like that and you keep looking inside of yourself, what am I doing wrong? God, I'm just a bad person. And there's nothing you can do. You come to realize eventually, hopefully with most people, there's really nothing you can do. You can dink and dive, and if you went right, you should have went left. If you went left, you should have went right. And you've got to fall in love and be happy with yourself, or be on the road to it, before I think you can be happy in a relationship, or at least start to come to that understanding.
Exactly. Like, it's true. Like, and even these, relationships are there for our own growth and development. We can't blame ourselves for taking the wrong corner, because there's always a different higher level perspective, or a different perspective saying, you know what, it's part of the journey, it's part of what we've planned. Like, my marriage is a karmic marriage. Then another relationship was the false twin flame experience, and then I had to go through all these different types of relationships to learn what love is and what love is not, in order to prepare myself to be able to receive and discern Amy's love.
No question about it. I couldn't agree 150,000% more. That's if that's one of several great points to take away from Stephen today, everybody, is that you do have to go through that journey. I wouldn't have been able to find, if I didn't go through the journey and the screwed up things that I did, I wouldn't be able to have, connected with my fiance, connected with a lot of people on Facebook. I mean, certain things had to happen into place and certain lessons had to be learned by me, but looking at it, yeah, I had to go through that. I wouldn't change a thing again because other good things came out of that. So it's a process. You can't just go out there and ice skate without ever putting on a pair of ice skates, which by the way, I never have. So I can't even roller skate. But you can't just go out there without having these experiences. And I think that's almost the name of the game.
Yeah, and one of the things that Amy has explained in the past, one of the things that she has said is that because there is a solid belief of that everyone has a guardian angel, it's been implying that there is a flawless being that looks out for them, whereas her mission or our project, or one of the things that we are passionate about, is getting everyone to connect with their own spirit guide. But the thing is, spirit guides are human just like you and me, and spirit makes mistakes, consciousness makes mistakes, and we don't grow or learn without making mistakes. So beating ourselves up because we made a mistake is also unhealthy.
Exactly, totally exactly. And I think that's another great point, what you just hammered home, is that spirit guides are also humans as well. And while they may be a couple of levels in consciousness or however many above us, I mean, there's more and more above them. I mean, it doesn't end with that, but I think a lot of people would just rely blindly on, well, if the spirit guide made a mistake, they suck, or they're no good, or they are evil, or if something negative energy did get into them, they might be persuaded to believe it blindly. So I guess really you're in your, you are your own guru, really.
Yeah, trust your body.
Yeah, trust your body. Trust your body. Yeah. Then it's getting somebody to, if you want it worked on, it's finding the right person and somebody that's going to believe you. That's why I'm so glad for Facebook and YouTube and things like that for this reason, is because there's access to people like you to talk to and things of that nature, and I'm grateful for it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm grateful for the people that I've met. I'm going to say a name again, like meeting people like Jocelyn, who introduced me to Amy. Then there's Jenny, who, creating that connection with her was just incredible. And then meeting people like Marlene and Rebecca and Robert, and all these people that I've met have all just shared. I don't know. It just makes sharing the experiences easier, and knowing that we're all working together as one because we're all having the same outcome.
Yeah, and it's refreshing to know, as despair as it seems sometimes with humanity awakening in their process, it's refreshing to know there's other people out there that have had experiences like yours or mine, or different, but in that same kind of a realm, and that you're not the only one out there. There's millions, actually, hundreds of thousands, millions of people around the world, and more than that yet to be discovered. But just out there in the Facebook groups of all different sorts, it really is a diverse community. It's not just that everybody's into doing telekinesis for 18 hours. So many different things to be offered.
One of the things traveling through the US, because the big purpose of the US is to see a full both spectrums, the light, the dark, what life is like in the US, what people experience, it's like the weekend just gone, I was meant to be in North Carolina. But because I hadn't booked my flights and a Hurricane Florence came through, I got to experience what, but from a distance, of what the extreme differences in the weather. So I get to see what both, I know what's the word, polarities. And when I've been walking around, walking through Colorado Springs was a culture shock because everyone is so friendly. You meet someone for the first time and the conversation is as if you're having a barbecue at someone's backyard because you've known them for so long.
Contrast that with New Jersey. It's like, hey, get the fuck out of my way, huh? No, not quite. But different regions have different, people are people. I know wherever you go. But yeah, I can hear what you're saying. And whereas back east, people are a little more on edge, I guess. So I've been told by people that are from back there that we're a little bit more relaxed out here in the Rocky Mountains and on the West Coast. So I don't know. You probably haven't listened to that, but.
It's kind of like the country folk talking about the city folk.
Yeah, pretty much.
The city folk are so used to being busy. If I don't get off the train at 8:05 a.m. and get to work at 8:15 a.m., I won't be able to get my cup of coffee at 8:20 a.m. Whereas the country folk is going, I got 3 months for me corn to grow.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. That's exactly what it's like here. That difference is exactly.
Yeah. But what I am seeing is that everyone has the capability of a beautiful love. No matter, everyone is just love, and that's what I'm seeing. That there is a beauty in everything that I'm seeing, and no matter where they're in the country or in the city, there is just this beauty around them, and that's the love that they're giving off.
Yeah, and it probably offers more time for reflection too, for country folk. Now, when I say country folk, I'm talking like people like in Colorado Springs, things like that. There's small areas down in some regions of the country. I don't know how to say this without sounding generalized or rude, but I'm not sure there's a lot of thinking going on, except for, yes, the corn is going to come up in 3 months. But yeah, it does give a person more time to reflect. Of course, who am I to be in somebody else's mind? I have no idea. I'm just, basing that on, I guess differences of, because America is diverse. It is like, you go over to Europe. Well, Australia is a huge continent, so we're kind of in the same boat land-wise. But over in Europe, you can drive one country to the next, to the next, to the next in some places. And it's like, the USA is kind of no different in a way, where different regions just have something different to offer, and the people have great, there is a moment of love in everybody. There is that potential for it.
Yeah. I mean, so far, I've only been in Colorado Springs and New Jersey, but I'm 34 kilometers away from Manhattan, and it's like being in different countries.
You're only about 34 kilometers from there, so let's see, that's about
so it's about a 30-minute drive.
That's about 20 to 25 miles then in our terms. Yeah, that's another thing about the U.S. is that we should go to the metric system. I don't know why Canada did several years back, and I guess we like to kind of drag the line on that a little bit. But I had to say that because I have another co-host that's Canadian, and she was talking about how hot out it was and that it was 19 degrees one day, and I'm like, hold on. Now, let me explain to people inside the United States listening. 19 degrees is not like our 19 degrees. They operate off of the Celsius, not the Celsius system, not the Fahrenheit system like we do. So, and I don't know myself. I'm ignorant to the conversion. The only thing I know is that 0 degrees Celsius is 32 Fahrenheit, which is what we go by. So, yeah,
Google helps me with that.
Yeah.
But I have to say, one thing that I do love about the pounds is that when I'm at the gym, it looks like I'm lifting more weight.
Well, that I hadn't thought. Well, yeah, that's a hell of a I would. Yeah, that's something I would pick up on and mention too. Actually, yeah. There you go. Hey.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there you go. So there's a plus to it. You
Now
know,
it's like,
while
oh,
you're watching Dr. Phil, you can look like the Incredible Hulk or feel like him.
yeah, it's like I'm bench pressing, 150 pounds. It's like, yeah, but get back home, it's like, 50 odd kilos.
Yeah, bench pressing is one of them things where it's like, of course, you got to work out to keep up with your body and all that. But bench pressing, if your weight can when you're younger, I noticed guys that I went to school with that were really into weightlifting, and they would just be competing week by week, and they would top each other's benchmark by 5-10 pounds. And most of these kids could outdo any adult at bench pressing. So bench pressing to me was one of the things where it's like, you got to continue to work at that to build your, it seems like you can build your weight the weight you can press quick if you do it a lot. If that makes sense, more so than anything else. Of course, these guys were on steroids too, so I don't know.
It's really interesting because all of a sudden we've started talking about physical. And the reason the thought that just popped into my head was that we've been talking about what Serapis Bey calls the causal 4-7 system, which is the lower 4, the higher 7. So the lower 4 is the physical, mental, spiritual, and emotional bodies. And here we are talking about the gym and everything else.
Yeah, and Dr. Phil, usually at a place like that, they would have a sports channel on. But yeah, I've noticed like in the last decade or so, you go in more and more, and you might even see a soap opera on.
Yeah. And most of the time, like when I was in the circuit room, they've got the golf on. But for some reason, Dr. Phil was on.
Yeah, it's typically, or if there's nothing going on, they'd have ESPN on or something, which is our big.
But what I got to see in this story that was presented was this man who absolutely loves this girl who would have these rage outbursts and throw things, but he didn't want to give up on her. And I'm like, imagine how the person would have felt knowing that everyone gave up on them because of them being able to express or be able to deal with the trauma that they've had as a childhood. So they spoke about it on this show, and it was just so beautiful to see that the man was not giving up, saying, I see who you are, and I know that you can be a better person, so let's get the help that you need so that you can have a better life. And that's the beauty of what I saw yesterday.
That is, because that just kind of makes me even emotional, because sometimes so many people want to they're fed up with dealing with you because it's an imposition on them. And I just wonder if they ever stop and think about that person that they think is an imposition. I wonder if they think how they're feeling inside, and do they really think that these people choose to be this choose this? You can, some people can make an argument for radio. They choose because they won't do this or do that. You don't know what's deep inside their mind. Obviously they have emotions, and they're able to love. Otherwise, they wouldn't have any emotion, period. And they're trying to figure things out probably too, how to help themselves. So it's when you get to somebody tell you that they're not going to give up on you, it's pretty special.
When I worked in criminal injuries courts and getting to see a lot of the really serious crimes that have been committed, one day I worked on 5 different case files, and on the 5th one I walked into my manager's office and was really emotional because I'm going, there's people that have experienced a lot of stuff. And it was really it wasn't hard to deal with, it was just the shock of every file I randomly picked was all associated with some sort of like one specific type of assault, which I'm trying to avoid saying because it was shocking. I couldn't understand how people can do it. And if we're going through life not working through that wounds or clearing the energy debris or whatever from that traumatic experience, because this is going to lead. Oh, now we're moving into some of the other work that I'm doing. Is that we can, as Jenny would explain, the soul fragments leaving the body, and we'd need to bring all that stuff back in. So one of the therapy, another modality I'm developing is the soul reacclimatization therapy, which is resetting the human soul back to their original state prior to Um, the best way to explain it, and if we have time, is when we incarnate, we have free will. There are a lot of people that aren't in connection with their spirit guide, so they don't get the assistance that they need. At the same time, and it's not in some cases it's not the human's fault for not listening, for not hearing their spirit guide, because their spirit guide needs the help communicating. So Amy set up a spirit guide school for spirit guides to get the help to work with their incarnates. So there are humans that have been wandering lost. So if, let's just say you've planned your life, this is the goals, obstacles, what you want to achieve, what you want to learn, and that doesn't happen, you kind of fall into the mud, and you just feels like life is giving up. What's been happening for many, many, many centuries is that when someone gets to that state, in order to be reset, they generally end their life. And they give up, and it's like, so we go back over to the other side. You get the counseling, which is where I come in, because I deal with the souls at the end of an incarnation to look at why certain things didn't happen and healing the wounds and traumas. So for the first time, we've got this opportunity to help a soul return to the state that they incarnated with without having to kill themselves and cross over and get that help. So the heart activation music therapy will eventually lead into this therapy. And once I understand more and more of it, we'll be able to then teach people how to do it.
Man, if you could pull that off, and I don't doubt that you're gonna do it, or you're gonna, or you'll get out of this incarnation trying at some point, hopefully many decades down the road. I mean, that's amazing, that thought.
Yeah.
Wow.
And then after this lifetime, Amy and I incarnate together. We pick up the work that are left off with, and we keep going, keep working with it, because some of these big things take many incarnations to work with.
Many. Do you get any sense from, well, obviously, because you just mentioned it, like from what Amy's told you, right? You get a sense that other people too are like just one more away from being, like you mentioned in the next incarnation, being together. Do you think, I mean, and it takes many incarnations in several of these cases, you're right. So do you think that a lot of people are we at a time where as a collective, a lot of people are either going to meet him in this incarnation, or the next incarnation is the time for a lot of people as well, but it's close?
As in meeting, like coming together with a twin flame, or the work?
Yeah, I guess so, yeah.
So when it comes to the twin flames, and Jocelyn Thomas, or Jocelyn Joy, who does Amy readings as well, she was saying that she'll have a different perspective, but from what we've experienced is that when the two soul paths, because not just the life path, the soul path, when they come together and merge with the twin flame, that's when the two of them come together. More and more twin flames are incarnating together than before. Most of the time, because of the way, to have their twin flame as a spirit guide is much more stronger to work with than having a spirit guide that's not the twin flame. Having said that, Amy and I have had many incarnations together, because one of the things she's been doing is helping me remember them. But for many, many, many lifetimes, Amy would study healing modalities while I'd be off traversing the universe.
Oh, okay. So you guys are both working on your own same mission, but own sides of it, Yeah.
So like Amy, so what we decided, as she explained to Jocelyn to us, was that we decided to do something different and go against what the norm was, and is that if she studies something, I would study something that's the complete opposite, so we can support each other. So she's the master. When we're doing the healing sessions, Amy's in my body, and she's the one doing the healing session, whilst I'm doing what I'm doing with the galactic systems. So it comes together beautifully. So we're working together as one, rather than learning the same things.
And again, this just felt pretty much right from the beginning with you. You know what I mean? Is that what when I was asking you earlier about if this took some trust or whatever, some trust building. But it sounds like it didn't take very long at all. I mean, and it's really worked well. You've been very lucky, it sounds like, and of course you went through a lot of trials and tribulations. Yeah, alcohol is nothing easy to kick. Of course, no substance is, and a lot of starseeds like to numb themselves more so because we feel we're more empaths than a lot of people are yet, but will become. And also, like, when you have a spirit guide or your contact or whatever, it's not, I want people to understand that it's not just that maybe you don't hear, it's not voices in your head. This stuff, it's hard to explain telepathy to somebody that doesn't understand it, because they think that we're all, it just means that, like, which we're getting to. Like, I could talk, you say you were in Australia or where you're at, and I'm here, and we could talk telepathically. At some point, humanity will get to that point, but I think it really starts with the initial steps, like a thought, a notion, synchronicities. Strong synchronicities seem to be my leading indicator that we're going telepathic, because these synchronicities with fellow like-minded people and people that are maybe on a similar path, the synchronicities are, hey, I was just thinking that a couple hours ago. I was just thinking that yesterday. And it's like, I really think that's like the beginning of our telepathy, if that makes sense.
Oh, yeah. I mean, one of the experiences that I've had is I woke up in the morning and I had this great idea, and I wrote it down and had a session with Amy, and I said, oh, what do you think of the title of the book, Walking with Amy? And it would be like the life story of life before and life after, and how life changed with that connection. And she goes, I really love that idea because I gave it to you. And then I said, oh, what do you think of this idea? She's going, when you're going to realize that your thoughts are not your own. And I'm like, oh, because all these ideas that I've had, she's the one giving them to me. But but she's also explained that when there are a plethora of different ways that spirit guides can communicate, and it's whatever easiest it is for that union to work together, because they've generally agreed prior to the human incarnating how they're going to communicate. So there's so many different ways, and Amy's explored them with me. It's like standing next to me, talking in my ear, or sending me light code. It's big, and I don't know how it all works, but I'm exploring it.
No, exactly, and that's the only thing you can do is keep pushing forward. And yeah, I think it's important to realize that however it works for you, it's great to reference how it works for other people. Like, your model's wonderful. Somebody else's model might be good, and it's okay to reference those and get advice. But I would, if you're getting a feeling, go with it. Don't base your experience on what, Stevens was and expect, everything just to be like that, because different spirit guides, you're right, communicate differently. Light touch, whisper to the ear, maybe telepathic thought. Mostly it's with me like a thought, like you're saying, it's a thought that comes to you. It's not like an evil thought or anything, but it's an idea, like the title of your book, like things like that. You know what I mean? It's like a thought, a notion, idea, thought, a notion, an idea. And, and there it is. And it, and it comes out of nowhere a lot of the time, most of the time.
And if you feel like you're being nagged and you can't explain it, it's probably because you are, like I have.
Yeah. Yeah, if that doesn't happen, and that's not, see, in your case, it's not a negative thing in that case. I mean, you're not being whispered to go rob a bank, or all that crazy shit that they would try to fill you up with in the church. This girl heard whispers in her ear from orbs, and all of a sudden she wanted to start shooting people. I mean, or start whatever, join a satanic cult, which if they're going to that church, they're probably already in one without knowing it. But no offense to people out there. Religion is that, if that's your thing, that's your thing. Just don't keep it out of fucking anybody else's business unless they specifically want to know.
Actually, on the day I was packing to go to come to New Jersey, I got told to turn on a TV station, and I was flicking through channels, and I saw this its supernatural TV show or whatever it was, and I wasn't sure what I was looking for. And there was this person who comes from this church, and he was talking exactly the same. He was pretty much sharing and describing the exact same thing as I would describe working with Amy. And he used the word God, and it was all a lot of the religious stuff, such as God showed me visions, and God shows me this, and God comes through me and teaches, shows me this stuff, and I write it down and I share it with everyone. And it's like, in religion, they're still channeling. One of the sessions that Metatron came through, he goes, there are people in the churches that channel me directly. They don't know, but they do. So it's really interesting because no matter what religion you are, the messages that are coming through are being shared.
Yeah, exactly. And the ones, yeah, and maybe they'll get that at some point. And, you know, God is such a generic term to me to use. You know,
Yeah.
And if they want to use it, it's so generic and it can be off-putting just by starting in. The guy could add a great story, and it was really the truth. But once you start off with "I spoke to God," they refer to it as something else. I mean, it just that would be my recommendation. But you know, again, baby steps. You know, maybe they are trying to help their own congregation in the best way they see how. So. Yeah.
One of the conversations that I had recently with an open-minded Christian, and I was saying that we are made in God's image energetically, because we are an aspect of the God consciousness. We love crystals because what's in crystals is God consciousness. It's God's source that's not touched by mankind. So we go to a crystal because we feel the light, which is God. So God's an energy more than anything else, which is so beautiful. One of the things that Amy gets me to do is that when I go to bed, I set my intention to meet her in the light where there is no form, where there is no identity, and we're meeting each other in God light itself.
Just energy. Yeah. Just pure energy.
So that's what I love so much about the crystals, because I use it as a canvas, but we use God source, and that's why we love crystals so much, because it brings us that connection back to who we are, back to what we are.
Yeah, so much clarity in crystals, so much wonder, so much beautiful. And you're right, our innate remembers those and is in love with them from the beginning of our soul. Yeah, you know, like I said, anybody that tells you they don't like crystals is in denial.
I'm getting a lot of prompts at the moment. So one of the things with the heart activation music, and this is where we talk about the systems expert, is one of the things that humanity loves so much is that if they send something out, it should be received. You know, they live in the hall of mirrors. So, which is, I believe, the law of attraction. The more I help others, the more I help myself. So if I help someone else, something's going to be returned. What we're doing is that by playing the heart activation music in your own home, in your own sessions, it actually is someone described as an antivirus for systems. So the masters were saying that the reason why I'm not seeing much in return is because it goes through and shatters the mirrors of the augmented reality that we live in. So that's where it's really interesting, because the systems that have kept us in all humanity in a state of slavery can be broken down, and that's what I figured out how to do, because my soul origins are system builders as well.
Man, amazing, incredible. I feel like a dunce that I didn't have better questions to ask you. I mean, you're amazing, and as we wind down, I want you to, if there's no time limit, if there's any other topics you need to touch on, I would like for you to do that. And also, I'd like for you to let people know where you can be found, because I'm going to also, when I post this on Facebook and on YouTube, I'm also going to provide a couple of the links that you sent me, you know, for of course the Starpoint 9 YouTube channel, as well as the Heart Music Activation YouTube channel, which go there and subscribe, people, and check them both out. Starpoint 9 and Heart Music Activation, or just type in Stephen North on YouTube. there. I didn't mean to say that for you, but I wanted to add that.
Yeah, and my website is www.stephennorth.com.au to make it. I've got a few, so but I've because I've been building websites for friends, so I've got a few websites at the moment. But yeah, stephennorth.com.au, and it's got all my Facebook pages down there somewhere. Tells you can contact me directly. But yeah, so I think this weekend I'm in Pittsburgh catching up a Pirates game and heading to the museum. Then on the Monday I'm in Sarasota. There's an event that I'm also giving a session in Tampa, Florida. Then once we do that, then I go to San Francisco to Marin County, where Amy and I grew up, which is there for a few days. There's a sound healing conference in San Francisco that I can attend now because I didn't realize I was going to be there on the right days, but I can go there. And then we're road tripping. So if you're around, I'd love to meet up.
Yeah, San Francisco's the West Coast is long, and it's about a 9-hour drive for me. But eventually, sometime, maybe if you can make it up to Portland or Seattle, eventually we'll meet up. Our paths will cross. My fiance, Christina's daughter, will be here permanently in T-minus, it's like 13 days now. So, and she was really looking forward to listening to this show as well. She's kind of shy about getting on air, but she's the brains behind most of this operation and most of our Facebook operations. So, yeah, I would love that. I would love that at some point. I think that would be wonderful. And I'd love to, as things develop, I'd love to have you back on the show again. So we're going to include your website in the link. And other than that, I can't think of anything else that I wanted to ask you off the top of my head. Is there anything else pressing that or anything else you want to share? Or I'm just trying to make sure I cover all bases.
I mean, what I can share is that a lot of the music that I have is available on Spotify, Amazon, iTunes. I like hearing people's experiences while I'm developing the modality because it's really interesting to see how everyone is responding. I've got comments such as animals walking the room and falling asleep in front of the speakers. I received an email once the other day saying that their son has to listen to the music before they go to bed. It's like Stephen North on Spotify, not the Huckleberry Finn actor, but it's available everywhere. So, and then my website, I've got other albums available. So because Spotify, you get something like 0.001 cent per play, which is really killing the music industry, because ideally what I'd like to do is set up a publishing business so that other musicians can contribute and we can work together, because music really works with the emotional system as well.
Yeah, and as you know, in 3D world, that dollar bill, or wherever you may be in the world, the euro, the ruble, it makes things go round. And I would recommend people go check those out, and I'll put that in the description too. That your stuff can be found at Amazon as well. You said iTunes too. Okay.
I mean, I've got like meditation albums, and then I've got short songs. Some are dancey, some are I don't know. I just make whatever comes through on the day.
Whatever comes through consciousness.
Yeah.
Yeah, whatever comes. You and Amy making that beautiful music together.
I mean, there was one day I was writing a song, and I'm like, it was just so bizarre, and it's like, who am I working with? And it's like, Carly. Goddess Carly, and I'm like, oh, wonderful. Okay, now I know why it sounds so beautiful and strong at the same time.
You put 2 and 2 together there and got 4.
Yeah.
Or 1 and 1 and got 2. But yeah, awesome, man. I'm gonna have to have you back on, and I do appreciate you coming on. I appreciate you putting up with my grogginess this morning. Usually I don't get up till a little bit later out here on West Coast time. So, but it was great. I enjoyed doing the interview, and next time I'll be a little bit more on the ball. But man, thank you, Stephen, for taking this time.
And thank you.
No, really, the pleasure and the honor is all mine. And I'll just run through real quick before we end the broadcast, real quick. I could go off and rattle a bunch of things about like where you can find me, but the best way to do that is just go to Facebook and go to a page, which I have like 20 pages, 40 groups, but go to Pleiadian groups and pages, not the group called that, which is mine too, but the page called that. And you can find out all my YouTube channels, website, the different groups, and of course, and pages on Facebook. You know, if you enjoy the show and you have $1 or $2 to contribute, you can go to the website, which is on there. It's not a real professional done website, but it does the job. And so just go to that page and you can find the website. I know that sounds kind of lazy of me, but that's really the focus on the show is not on me. It's on guests. And with that being said, I just, you know, and of course, check out my YouTube channels. Like I said, Pleiadian Express Productions. And I also drop down into 3D and do a show about social issues with a couple of guys. And that's called the What's Your Opinion Show channel. And that's all. I'll leave it at that. And with that being said, I'm going to give everybody a big cosmic dating game kiss. Mwah. And we're out.